In Arcane, episode 4 of season 2, one of my lingering thoughts and questions was, when Jinx saves the Jinxers from Stillwater Prison, why are they so quiet? These are Jinx fans who were literally just calling to see her earlier that day. It just felt like, especially in this modern age of unhealthy parasocial relationships, I would imagine that if you met someone that you idolized, let alone rescued you, I would have expected something a little bit more. But instead they seem confused or even suspicious that she's there, until eventually, one by one, they gently touch her, and the touching itself could have come across as something like worship, though it doesn't feel that way, and then they just walk past her. It's all very calm and cordial. This is definitely not a problem. I was just wondering why it was shot like this. And I'm still not completely sure, but I'm gonna take a shot. First of all, scenes can always suspend logic for purposes of aesthetic, storytelling, or the emotion that they're going for, as long as they deliver. There's a lot of power in dialogueless scenes, but sometimes it's also for the purpose of saving screen time by not having to fill it up with dialogue, or having to pay voice actors. But at the very least, what's most important in this scene is selling what this moment means to Jinx. Jinx's journey in season 2 so far has been one of the most compelling things about it, because Jinx has always been the cursed child. The one who makes things worse merely by existing, or the girl who can't do anything right. Even Silco, who called her perfect, also yelled at her constantly for making trouble for him and not doing things correctly. And just imagine the mixed signals around just that. You're perfect being the murderer that you are that can't do anything right. That's just who you are. And that has always eaten at her, as an underrated part of her character is how much she has genuinely wanted to help people. She doesn't always help in the most straightforward way, certainly not by following others' instructions. She always wants to help in her way, with her abilities, with her skills. And yes, in this way, the motive is partially self-affirming. I want to prove to myself and others that I am useful, that I am worthwhile, so that they won't abandon me. But that is also incredibly relevant to this story and her current arc. But every time she tries to help, usually someone dies, and sometimes it's her own family. So there is a genuine fear and anxiety that pops up about needing to save Isha and taking on the hero role, because it could go very badly. And if there's a reason why she hasn't been experiencing as much of the screaming voices in her head that she was experiencing in season 1, it's because Jinx in season 1 was constantly tortured about who she was and what she had done, and denying that she's Jinx, that she's a murderer, and it all manifested in this visceral visual interpretation. But they aren't around in season 2 because she has given up fighting them. She's not battling between the guilt or denial, she has just accepted that she is both a murderer and a cursed entity.
You ever need to curse a sibling or a family or a society? My card.
But that's not the same thing as saying that she wants to be Jinx. Even though she accepted being Jinx, she doesn't want to be the cursed entity that hurts people. And part of the only reason she's accepted it is because she doesn't feel like she's had any choice. That's just who she is. Her being alive somehow manages to kill people.
Whether I'm pulling the pin or not, everyone who gets close to me dies.
During the time skip, she does try to leave Jinx behind for a somewhat peaceful life with Isha.
That's a past life, kid. Knows about as sweet as last year's milk. Jinx is dead.
But in that case, she's not fighting who she is, she's just avoiding it entirely. The moment the scary drawings and the voices come back is when she's suddenly resistant and terrified at the prospect of having to help Isha. She is compelled to be both the hero and Jinx, two very conflicting personas in her mind that both usually conclude in the same unfortunate result. But at the end of the day, wanting to save Isha wins out. And it's why that when she first starts out her rescue mission, she's very sarcastic and awkward, both at pretending to be the villain and pretending to be the hero, as though she doesn't truly believe either one.
Here I am, your big fat hero.
And yeah, there's something significant by the fact that she pops up and even the guard doesn't believe her.
You're vile villainess, the author of your nightmares, the dread of your...
But then when Jinx finally does arrive at the jail, for the first time, she is given appreciation and gratitude, and nobody died. So now, knowing just that she can, she then decides to take up the hero role sincerely. Something she has always, on some level, wanted to be.
I'm a hero. I busted half of Zahn out of Stillwater while you were passed out in the bottom of a mug.
Okay, fine, but what about the Jinxers themselves? Why were they so calm and curious at her arrival? Because they did not expect for Jinx to do this. Jinx essentially became a symbol not because anyone knew her or seen her, though it is slightly possible they at least knew her by reputation as Silco's runner, but in this case because she was on wanted posters and because of her attack on Piltover. Has essentially become a symbol for what she inspires is raw, aggressive, chaotic defiance. Which is understandable, but it's also random and aimless. At this time, Sevika has been trying to unite Zaun citizens against the Piltover occupation, like she failed to do with the Chem Barons before, and still no one wants to listen to her. And what's very fitting about this situation, especially for Sevika, is that this all comes back to the philosophical divide between Vander and Silco. Or at least at the point of episode 3 of season 1, where Silco, this was still all about power and revolution and fighting back, and for Vander, it was about family and community protecting each other.
We look out for each other, it's the way it's always been.
Whereas Silco wanted Zaun to be its own nation, which could only happen if it had both force and capital, and he was able to achieve both with the Shimmer trade. But Shimmer turned the bulk of Zaun into a city of either drug users or drug sellers. The lanes were split up between the various Chem Barons, but more so, Zaun became a place where everyone was just out for their own self-interest. And while Silco himself managed to keep the ship running, the minute he was gone, the various factions all started vying for power, everyone out for themselves, at a time where Sevika knew that Piltover was aiming to strike, but nobody wanted to work together. It's funny how Silco talks about loyalty, but really it's what he's done to Zaun, why it deteriorated, and why everyone got so divided. And it's poignant for Sevika, who originally turned away from Vander for Silco because he seemed weak and didn't want to fight. Now she's literally standing in front of Vander's statue, preaching a mesh of both of their philosophies, fighting back as a united people. And that's it. Nobody wanted to unite because they all think that it's pointless, Piltover's too powerful, and they all kind of hate each other and no one trusts each other, because that is the kind of place that Zaun has turned into. And if you live in hell, might as well throw some Molotov cocktails for funsies, even if it accomplishes nothing. So when Jinx shows up to save them, they are genuinely surprised. Looking out for others is just not what Zaunites do. But probably more pertinent than that, they've only seen her as a symbol in dramatic artistic depictions. Now they are seeing her as a real person, and not just a person, a child.
Big fat hero.
They wanted a teenager to lead them, and I think that really hits them, but I think it also might be potentially encouraging. Wow, one child did this? Yeah, I think all of us together could probably take them. So making this physical contact is them acknowledging the real her, not just their perceptions of her. She is not just the symbol for chaotic defiance that they essentially just use as an output and expression of their rage. She is a person, like the people of Zaun that are hurting. And as people of Zaun, they need to start looking out for each other. So they thank her, acknowledge her, and they move forward to move to the next step. And what also really supports this is at first, I didn't remember who this guy was and why they kept cutting back to him. What is he, the rando enforcers in episode 1 that have no reason to be there except maybe for Act 3 time travel reasons? And then I went back over season 1 and it was like, oh, that's right! He's a Firelight! One of the guys that is not a fan of Jinx right now. No wonder they didn't want to work together. But now that he has seen her rescue them, seeing that Jinx is at least slightly different now, he gives a knowing nod to Sevika, essentially relaying that they will go along with the unification plan now. Or I could be totally wrong, maybe this is a devotion kind of thing, maybe she is going to be leading a Jinx cult in Act 3, I don't know. This entire video may be pointless in 12 hours. Also, it is significant that these people touch her, that they see and acknowledge her, but in episode 5, Vi does not. Vi has still not accepted Jinx as her own person. She still sees her as essentially the walking corpse of her sister.
Done pretending you're my sister, you're not. You killed her. I'm not gonna let you stain her memory anymore.
The closest she got was saying that she didn't need her help, so why even bothering to come and get her? We'll have to see in Act 3 if anything about that changes with the recent developments. Now the question is, if part of the reason that Jinx accepted the hero role was because of Isha, what's gonna happen when Isha is hypothetically not around anymore? Anyway, I've really enjoyed Jinx's journey this season. I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends.